I've got Don over here in his pickup truck. I got Robert over here, and we're on the Sena Mesh.
This video is sponsored by Cruiseman's Garage Honda Goldwing Maintenance Video Series.
Today on Cruiseman's Garage, we're testing the Sena Meshport Red. So what exactly is a Meshport Red? Well, first and foremost, it is a mesh device like other Sena mesh devices, so it can connect seamlessly to any number of mesh devices using open mesh, such as Sena communicators with mesh, a Sena Impulse helmet, or a Sena headset. What the Meshport Red does that's unique is it creates a bridge to Bluetooth devices such as smartphones, iPads, and yes, even the GoPro Hero 12. And what these devices all have in common is they can create video and audio. So now we can use the Sena Meshport Red to feed the audio from our Sena mesh communicators to the Bluetooth devices. Now today we're going to focus on the GoPro 12 because a lot of people use GoPros to record their group rides. So for today's test, I've asked my friend Don Smith, who is in the red pickup truck, to record this ride with his dash cam. And I've also asked another friend, Robert White, who has another Goldwing, and he also has a Sena communicator built into his showy helmet, and I'm using the Sena Impulse helmet, as you can see in the video. The Meshport Red must be mounted on the motorcycle within Bluetooth range of the GoPro Hero 12. So they provide several different mounting options. I particularly like this rubber strap method. And this does come with the Meshport Red. You simply slide it into those little slots and it locks in place. And then you can use the rubber strap to mount it just about anywhere. I'm mounting it to my passenger grab rail and it works fine. You turn on the Meshport Red by pressing the little multi-function button. You'll notice a flashing green light indicating that mesh intercom is working. Now, I previously paired the Meshport Red to this GoPro Hero 12. If you want to see the video on how I did that, I'll put a link up in the corner of this video and in the description down below. In a few seconds, you'll see a little message pop up on the GoPro screen that says Meshport Red is connected. That's good news. So now Robert and I are both on open mesh on channel 1. And the Meshport Red is connected to the GoPro, so let's go for a ride and see how this group recording works.
I've got Don over here in his pickup truck. I got Robert over here, and we're on the Sena Mesh.
Yep, oh, good morning.
Good morning. This is using open mesh. We're on channel 1, and we're going to go for a little ride and see how it does recording a group ride. I guess I'll pull out first.
All right.
And we're just going to do this for a few blocks, see how it works. I'll let Robert tell you a little about his morning. It's cold this morning.
It was. When I first got out, a little chilly. Bike said 42, I think, which meant it was really about 40. My bike reads a little warm. And but with the heated grips and the heated seat turned almost all the way up, it was pretty nice. And I have these lower wind deflectors that take that radiator heat and push it up towards my leg.
Right.
So it kept me pretty warm, actually. Hey, who's that good-looking red truck behind us?
I have no idea. He looks a little sketchy to me.
I hope he stops.
And for those of you that don't know, that's Don Smith and his red Ranger pickup. But this morning we're testing out the ability to record group audio on a GoPro Hero 12 using the Sena Meshport Red. And I'm riding with Robert White on his 2023 Goldwing. You can see him probably behind me. And what I'll do is I'm just going to turn around up here and let Robert keep going and talking, and we'll see how far he gets before we lose the connection on this open mesh.
All right. What a beautiful morning for riding.
It really is. And the communication is very, very clear. I did not turn on CarPlay. I left it off. I didn't want to get interrupted with any audio coming through the headset.
CarPlay on, but it's not interrupting anything.
I do get a little bit of static in between the times we're talking. When we're talking, it's very clear. So I'm anxious to see what the audio sounds like once we get this video off and start editing.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool device.
Yeah, it really is. And I was able to use the rubber strap that came with it and just strapped it around my handlebars. I'm going to pull off here and turn around, and I'm going to let you guys go on.
All right.
And I'll see how far we can communicate.
All right. Well, we'll just keep testing this thing out.
Yeah, you sound good right now.
I can still hear you.
I can still see you. So.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
It's already breaking up a little. I'd say you're probably a quarter of a mile away now.
So the mesh technology works better when you're on the open road, say out on the highways or riding through the twisties. It's really not made for inner city driving with lots of structures. We had overpasses, and as soon as Robert got about a quarter to a half a mile from me, the audio did start breaking up. Now, I should emphasize that's not a characteristic of the Meshport Red. That's just a general characteristic of Bluetooth or mesh communicators. You really almost need to be line of sight. I know Don and I tested our mesh communications between a couple of headsets a few years ago, and we could go up to a half a mile as long as we were sort of in visible range of each other, which is, pretty good. And if you're in a group, riding in a group, the way mesh works, it kind of hops from one to the next. So, the rider in the rear could be 3 or 4 miles away from the rider in the front. As long as people in between are within a quarter to a half a mile of each other, everybody should still be able to communicate just fine.
So if you have a Sena headset that has mesh, Sena Mesh, you can communicate through that with the GoPro Hero 12. Only the Hero 12. It does not work with the 11 or the 10. One of the features of the GoPro 12 is the ability to connect via Bluetooth to an external audio source. When Robert was riding with me, it was very clear. The mesh was very clear. I'm anxious to see how the recording comes out when I get home. Now, on the second half of this ride, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this camera around the other way so I can get some forward-facing shots that I can edit into the video. So this is my second test of the Sena Meshport Red with the GoPro Hero 12 motovlogging. I don't have anybody else on the mesh with me at the time. It's just me, and I do have my radio playing through the helmet, but it mutes when I start talking. It does mute that. So I'm not sure if you can hear the radio in between my talking. I did notice that when Robert and I were on Open Mesh communicating with each other, in between our communication, I was getting quite a bit of static through the headset. I'm not getting that now. So for some reason, if it's just me, this is kind of an example of how you could use the Meshport Red if you're just motovlogging. You don't want to have a separate audio setup. You don't want to have a lavalier mic. You just want to ride and talk. And I apologize for my edge of my windshield being in the GoPro frame, but I guess I could put the selfie a little bit higher. Maybe that would resolve that issue. There we go. That should get it out of the shot a little better. Well, I have a neckerchief that's covering my mouth to keep me warm, and I'm unable to pull it down with my helmet on, unfortunately. Let me see if I can lift up my modular helmet. It's hard to get to with these gloves, so it might sound like I'm a little muffled because of that, because I'm basically talking through about a half an inch of fabric. And I tried to open my shield to shove that fabric down below my mouth, but it just keeps creeping back up, which is good. It keeps me warm, but I'm sure it's impeding the sound quality of my speech. So I was able to open up my modular helmet and get that face covering back down. So now this is what it sounds to me like, just talking into the microphone. But you'll notice in our neighborhood a lot of the leaves are dropping. A lot of people have bags out. They were out bagging their leaves yesterday. And we had our yard guy come out yesterday. Ricky and I had already gone out and raked a bunch of leaves ourselves last week. But, you know, at this time of year, in 2 days, the yard's full of leaves again. So our yard guys came out yesterday and raked up a bunch of leaves. I think we've got like 6 big bags of leaves out for the trash guy to pick up. But we're coming up on my house. You'll see how clean my yard is and how many bags of leaves we have ready for the trash guy to pick up. Looks like I think there's at least 7 or 8 bags. So thanks for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up. That always helps my YouTube rankings. I know this is a little bit of a strange motovlog because it was mostly just testing out the Sena Meshport Red. You'll see some of these clips in my second review video of the Meshport Red. But I do think it's interesting how you can use this Meshport Red with open mesh if you have a Sena communicator with mesh. And I just think it's a very cool feature. So again, thanks for joining me. Remember what I always say, ride often, but ride safe.